Om Jnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajeevam Sadavaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakanitamscha Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Prachari Nirvishesha Shunnavadi Pashyati Deshatari Namo Mahavadanyaya Krishna Prema Pradayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namine Gauratushe Namaha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Sri Radha Kanta Namostate Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Shri Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Nilachala Nivasaya Nityaya Paramatmane Balabhadra Subhadrabhyam Jagannathaya Te Namaha Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhyeva Cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Mukam karoti vachalam pangum langayate girim Yat kripa tamaham bande Shri Guru Dinatarinam. Hare Krishna. We are continuing our reading from Srimad Bhagavatam. This is 4th canto, chapter 8. Dhruva Maharaj leaves for the forest. And I believe we had discussed till text 71. So today we will start with text 72. So we are starting with Dhruva Maharaj, how Dhruva Maharaj was practicing Triratrante Kapita Badarasanaha Atmavritti Anusarena Masam Ninye Arjayan Harim. For the first month, Dhruva Maharaj ate only fruits and berries. On every third day, only to keep his body and soul together. And in this way, he progressed in his worship of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Kapita is a flower which is known in Indian vernacular as Kayeta. We do not find an English equivalent for the name of this flower. Not for luxurious feasting, but just to keep his body and soul together. The body needs food, but a devotee should not accept foodstuff to satisfy the tongue in sense gratification. It is recommended in Bhagavad Gita that one should accept as much food as necessary to keep the body fit, but one should not eat for luxury. He teaches us how one can execute devotional service We must carefully know the process of Dhruva Maharaj's service. How severely he passed his days will be shown in the later verses. We should always remember that to become a bona fide disciple of the Lord is not an easy task. But in this age, by the mercy of Lord Chaitanya, the liberal instructions of Lord Chaitanya, how can we expect to discharge our regular duties in devotional service? It is not possible in this age to follow Dhruva Maharaj in his austerity, but the principles must be followed. We should not disregard the regulative principles given by our spiritual master. Ask that one observe the four prohibitive rules, chant 16 rounds, and instead of indulging in luxurious eating for the tongue, simply accept prasad offered to the Lord. This does not mean that with our fasting, the Lord should also fast. The Lord should be given foodstuffs, which is nice as possible. But we should not make it a point to satisfy our own tongues. As far as possible, we should accept simple foodstuff just to keep the body and the soul together to execute devotional service. It is our duty to remember always that in comparison to Dhruva Maharaj, we are insignificant. We cannot do anything for self realization. We are absolutely incompetent to execute such service. But by Lord Chaitanya's mercy, we have been given all concessions possible for this age. So at least we should always remember that neglect of our prescribed duties in devotional service will not make us successful in the mission we have undertaken. It is our duty to follow in the footsteps of Dhruva Maharaj, for he was very determined. We should also be determined to finish our duties in executing devotional service in this life. We should not wait for another life to finish our job. The principle of spiritual life is very clear. The less we keep for ourselves, Srila Prabhupada is highlighting that yes, we are insignificant. We cannot follow the exact details of the level of austerity which was practiced or demonstrated by Dhruva Maharaj. But Srila Prabhupada is explaining that the principle remains the same. Whatever small little principles are given to us, we should wholeheartedly follow. Therefore, it is explained that the more serious we are in following the regulations and the principles given to us, the more serious we are in following the principles and regulations which are given to us, the faster we will progress, and as Prabhupada is explaining the purport, the easier the process becomes. The process becomes easier. Life becomes. Many times devotees find difficulty in practice. Many times devotees find difficulty in their practice, and that the reason behind that is not taking the principles of Krishna consciousness seriously. The more we are casual in our spiritual practices, the more easy the path is going to become. So this is what Srila Prabhupada explains here, and this is what is a lesson which we can take for us to imbibe. So Dhruva Maharaj is eating kapita fruits, very simple foods, not very relishable or palatable foods, just to keep the body and soul together. But his whole consciousness and energy and focus is on the mission of the Lord. द्वितीयं च तथा मासं षष्ठे षष्ठे अर्भको दिने तिनापार्नादिभिः शीर्णे कृतानो अभ्यार्चयन् विभुम्. In the second month, Dhruva Maharaj ate only every 6 days, and for his eatables, he took dry grass and leaves. Then the first month was once in 3 days kapita fruits. Now the second month Dhruva Maharaj is eating once in 6 days, and that also he is taking. The eatables are dry grass and leaves. Thus he continued his worship. Titiyam chanayan masam navame hani abhaksha uttama shlokam upadhavat samadhina. In the third month he drank water only every 9 days. So in the third month he is drinking water only once in every 9 days. Thus he remained completely in trance and worshipped the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is adored by selected verses. Chaturthamapi vaimasam dvadashe dvadashe vayu bhaksho jitaswaso dhyayan devam adharaya. In the fourth month, Dhruva Maharaj became a complete master of the breathing exercise, and thus he inhaled air only every 12th day. In this way, he became completely fixed in his position and worshipped the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So in the fourth month, Dhruva Maharaj became a complete master of the breathing exercise. He inhaled air only every 12th day. In this way, he became completely fixed in his position and worshipped the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So, now the question here to explore is this, that is, so we see a progressive rise in Dhruva Maharaj's absorption in his austerities. So now the question to explore here is that, was Dhruva Maharaj's seriousness, or we can say experience or realization in his spiritual practice, or what we call as the iota of higher taste, was that the reason that his austerity was increasing? Or is it that Dhruva Maharaj was increasing his austerity, and because of that he was getting more space for practice? So that is something which we have to think about. The Is it higher taste which leads to simplification of lifestyle, or is it a strength? So the acharyas prescribe that at whatever level and status we are in, with all our conditionings, one should simplify his lifestyle or stretch which one adds. Because of that, one gets space to execute devotional service a little more intensely. Now, because of the additional intensity of practice of devotional service, that leads to additional higher taste, and that additional higher taste will make the stretch part, the austerity part, a normal matrix of our life. So it becomes an equilibrium state. One can peacefully exist on that level. Then one can stretch a little more to simplify his life a bit more. So in this way, so we can understand that the sadhaka, it is the sadhaka's prerogative to take the first step. Obviously, the step will be according to the height of the person. Our step cannot be Lord Trivikrama's step, from the earthly planet to the Brahmaloka planet. No, it cannot be that type of step. Our step, no, depends on the height. Child is small. All depends on the height. So we have to take our step forward. That's the point. But the prerogative, the initiative. So therefore, one has to struggle to create space. How much we should struggle? Little bit you struggle, create little bit space, and then that will become normal in some days. Then you little bit more struggle and create little more space, and that will become normal. So in this way, one should progress, and we can see Dhruva Maharaj is showing this example here. In a similar way, Srila Raghunath Das Goswami Pad is also showing this kind of example. Initially, he was just eating the Mahaprasad which Sarada Madhu Goswami was giving him. Then he realized that this is becoming opulent. So he increased his austerity level. Then he started sitting near Simhadwar, and whatever people would offer, no remnants, as donation, as alms, he would take. And then he started, and then his level increased, and then he started uh, honoring the remnants of Jagannath Mahaprasad, which was so stale they were thrown, and only cows would take it, and he would take that, would wash it, add a little water, and take that. So obviously we never will have to do any such level of austerities as Dhruva Maharaj or Srila Raghunath Das Goswami. All we have to do is give up the artificialities, what we have, the artificial paddings, what we have added in our lives, which makes our movement in bhakti so difficult. The social, the status quo, so on, dot, dot, dot. We just have to give that up. So, and then we can also engage, or and that will give us space to engage more intensely more enthusiastically with greater absorption in devotional service. Panchame masi anuprapte jitaswaso nipatmaja dhyayan brahma padaikena. Maharaj Dhruva, the son of the king, had controlled his breathing so perfectly that he was able to stand on only one leg, just as a column stands without motion, and concentrate his mind fully on the Parabrahman. Sarvato mana aksharasya hridhi bhutendriyasayan dhyayan bhagavato rup his senses and their objects, and in this way he fixed his mind without diversion to anything else. He completely controlled the form of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The yogic principles of meditation are clearly explained here. It is not that one can meditate or concentrate on an impersonal objective. To try to do so is simply a waste of time, for it is unnecessarily troublesome, as explained in Bhagavad Gita. Is about absorption. Spiritual life is not about blankness. So that is why the Shastras do not recommend just the platform of liberation. What will you do after getting liberated? So the activity of what one is going to do is very prominent focus in bhakti. And to do that, one requires more and more self-control and purification of the senses. And that is why the sadhaka performs the regulative principles, and sadhaka performs even the activities of devotional service in a determined 78. Adaram mahadadinam pradhana purusheshwaram brahmadharyavamanasya trayolokas chakampire. When Dhruva Maharaj thus captured the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is the refuge of the total material creation and who is the master of all the living entities, the three words Brahman refers to one who not only the greatest has seat nicely answered by Jiva Goswami. He says that the Supreme Personality of Godhead is the origin of Brahman, for since he comprises everything, the Supreme Lord says, I am the resting place of Brahman. Many persons, especially the Mayavadi philosophers, consider Brahman the biggest, all expanding substance. But according to this verse and other Vedic literatures, such as Bhagavad Gita, the resting place of Brahman is a. Srila Jiva Goswami therefore says that since the transcendental form of the Lord is the seed of all greatness, he is the Supreme Brahman. Since the Supreme Brahman was situated in the heart of Dhruva Maharaj, he became heavier than the heaviest, and therefore everything trembled in all the three worlds and in the spiritual world. The Mahat Tattva, or the sum total of the material creation, is to be understood to be the ultimate end of all the universes, including all the living entities therein. Brahman is the result of the Mahat Tattva. which includes all the material and spiritual entities. It is described in this connection that the Supreme Brahman, the personality of Godhead, is the master of both Pradhan and Purusha. Pradhan means subtle matter, such as ether. Purusha means spiritual spark, living entities, who are entangled in that subtle material existence. These may be described as Paraprakriti and Aparaprakriti as stated in Bhagavad Gita. Master of Pradhan and Purusha. In the Vedic hymns also the Supreme Brahman is described as Anta Pravishta Shashtha. This indicates that the Supreme Brahma Samhita 535 further confirms this. Andantarastha Paramanu Chaitara Visthabhyahamidam Kritsnam. The Supreme Personality of Godhead controls everything by entering into everything. By associating constantly with the Supreme Personality in his heart, Dhruva Maharaj naturally became equal to the greatest Brahman by his association, and thus became the heaviest, and the entire universe trembled. In conclusion, a person who always concentrates on the transcendental form of Krishna within his heart can very easily strike the whole world with wonder at his activities. That is the perfection of yoga performance as confirmed in Bhagavad Gita 647. Yogi namapi sarvesham. Of all the yogis, the bhakti yogi who thinks of Krishna always within his heart and engages in his loving transcendental service is the topmost. Ordinarily, yogis can exhibit wonderful material activities known as Ashtasiddhi, 8 kinds of yogic perfection, but a pure devotee of the Lord can surpass these perfections by performing activities which can make the whole universe tremble. Srila Prabhupada explains in some of his lectures, Prabhupada explains that you see, normally a devotee of the Lord is not interested in demonstrating his vibhuti or his glory or his opulence. So therefore, externally speaking, a devotee of the Lord will always appear meek and humble. But then Srila Prabhupada explains, what we have seen in the history, Prabhupada explains that whenever there has been, so Prabhupada explains that, but if a devotee decides to demonstrate, Prabhupada is talking, and in the history of mankind, who are the greatest warriors we have heard about since the dawn of creation, the history of mankind. And Prabhupada explains that the greatest warriors we have heard about are the pure devotees of the Lord. We hear about Arjuna, the hero of Mahabharata. We hear about Hanumanji, the hero of Ramayana. The topmost warriors in Mahabharata and Ramayana, and they are the topmost devotees, Mahabhagavats. So if a devotee decides to demonstrate, or for the need, for the mission of the Lord, if he takes up the cause, then it can shake the whole world. Nobody can just want to show off, okay, that this is the substance of my bhakti. But for the mission of the Lord, if there is a need, then we can see our devotees can excel, beyond limits. Just like we saw, Srila Prabhupada just wanted to preach, but then the way Srila Prabhupada reached out to the hearts of the Western audience, who are practically spiritually dead, the movement, the ISKCON movement, is a wonder, even for business strategists. So ISKCON becomes like a case study of how it all happened. How did that success happen, even from a material scale? So this is the point, that for the mission of the Lord, if a devotee embarks on anything, then he can go beyond any competition. Prabhupada explains that. So therefore, Prabhupada is saying that a pure devotee of the Lord can surpass these perfections by performing activities which can make the whole universe trembling. So here we can say, in very plain and layman's terms, Dhruva Maharaj is rocking. Literally, this is the fact. He was rocking, the entire universe was shaking because Dhruva Maharaj did it. That 5-year-old child has done it by the power of the Lord. This is the meaning of Mukam Karoti Vachalam also. Pangum Langayate Girim Yat Kripa Tamaham Bande Shri Guru Dinataranam. By Narad Muni's mercy, see what is happening now. Dhruv Maharaj is rocking the entire universe. He has become heavier than the heaviest, and the universe is shaking. Take 79. Yadaikapadena saparthiparpakas तस्थौ तद अंगुष्ठा निपीडिता मही नानामतत्रार्थम इभेन्द्र दिष्टिता तरेव सव्येतरत पदे पदे. As Dhruva Maharaj, the king of the earth, just as an elephant being carried on a boat rocks the boat left and right with his every step. The most significant expression in this verse is Parthivarbhakaha, the son of the king. When Dhruva Maharaj was at home, although he was a king's son, he was prevented from getting on the lap of his father. But when he became advanced in self-realization or devotional service, by the pressure of his toe, he could push down the whole earth. That is the difference between ordinary consciousness and Krishna consciousness. In ordinary consciousness, a king's son may be refused something even by his father, but when the same person becomes fully Krishna conscious within his heart, he can push down the earth with the pressure of his toe. One cannot argue. How is then that Dhruva Maharaj, who was prevented from getting up on the lap of his father, could press down the whole earth? This argument is not very much appreciated by the learned, for it is an example of Nagna Matrika logic. By this logic, one would think that because his mother in her childhood was naked, she should remain naked even when she is grown up. The stepmother of Dhruva Maharaj might have been thinking in a similar way. Since she had refused to allow him to get up on the lap of his father, how could Dhruva perform such wonderful activities as pressing down the whole earth? She must have been hard, could press down the entire earth like an elephant who presses down the boat on which it is. So, this is beautiful. So that means, so this is a proof. Prabhupada is explaining that yes, Krishna consciousness gets. A devotee does not want to use it for exploitation or to feed his false ego. But yes, a devotee may not mind or may be happy using it for the service of the Lord. Okay, let's move forward. Yati Vishwamatmano Dwaram Nirudhyasam Ananyaya Dhiya Loka Niruchya Vasa Nipidita Bhrisham Salokapala Sharanam Yayur Harim. And closing all the holes of his body, the total universal breathing became choked up, and all the great demigods and all the planetary systems felt suffocated and thus took shelter of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. In an airplane, although they remain individual units, they each share in the total force of the airplane, which runs at thousands of miles per hour. Similarly, every unit energy is identified with the service of the total energy. The unit energy becomes as powerful as the total energy. As explained in the previous verse, Dhruva Maharaj, because of his spiritual advancement, became almost a total heaviness, and thus he pressed down the whole earth. Moreover, by his spiritual power, his unit body became of the universe. Thus, when he closed the holes of his unit body to form the Supreme Personality of God, the pressure of suffocation and were being choked. They all took shelter of the personality of Godhead because they were and people, and that is choking up all the demigods and the living entities. They are feeling suffocated. So Dhruva Maharaj had got so much power. Is performing beyond his expectations. So one may say that yes, Dhruva is going to be given the kingdom greater than Brahma, which is what he wanted. But actually, even before he was officially given this benediction, Dhruva Maharaj has before that. You can see that. You know, Brahma is insignificant. Now Dhruva Maharaj has already got. So the kingdom was an official thing, but you see the powers in the practice of bhakti are also suffocated. So the Lord has not namesake coronated Dhruva Maharaj. Lord has, you see Dhruva Maharaj circuitry of the entire universe. So anyways, he is going beyond Brahma now. You see in powers, and now. So in this regard, we can see that the Lord has already started fulfilling Dhruva's desire, already getting the powers, king of the universe, the ruler of the universe, or the planetary system higher than Brahma's abode. The Lord is giving the proof here that he is not just a 5-year-old boy now. Now that has been given the power, the Lord is showing the universal controllers are getting suffocated. That is the power of Dhruva by my, and therefore Deva Uchuhu Akhila Sattvatamna Videhi Tanno Vrajinad Vimoksham. The demigod said, Dear Lord, you are the refuge of all the moving and non-moving living entities. We feel all the living entities to be suffocating. Their breathing process choked up. We have never experienced such a thing since you are the ultimate shelter of all the surrendered souls. Devotional service unto the Lord was felt even by the demigods who had never before experienced such a situation. Because of Dhruva Maharaj controlling his breathing, The entire universal that whereas the spiritual energy entities are products of the Lord's internal energy. The demigod Supreme Lord is the ultimate goal for the solution to all the problems within this material world. In the spiritual world, there are no problems, but the material world is always problematic. Since the Supreme Personality of Godhead is the master of both the material and spiritual worlds, it is better to approach him in all problematic situations. Amrita, Chaitanya Chandramrita. Devotees are free from all problems because they are fully surrendered unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead. For a devotee, everything in the world is very pleasing because he knows how to use everything in the transcendental service of the Lord. So, Krishna is the goal for a devotee. Therefore, the demigods, when they are in problem, they are solving the problem by taking shelter of the Supreme Lord Hari, by taking shelter of the Supreme Lord Krishna. Shri Bhagavan Uvacha Ma Bhaishtabalam Tapaso Turatyaya Yato Hiva Prana Nirodha Asi. Supreme Personality of Godhead replied, my dear demigods, do not be perturbed by this. It is due to he has obstructed the universal breathing process. You can safely return to your respective homes. I shall stop this. Sangatatma is misinterpreted by the Mayavadi philosophers who say that the self of Dhruva Maharaj became one with the Supreme Self, the personality of Godhead. The Mayavadi philosophers want to prove this by this word that the super soul and the individual soul became united. Here it is clearly stated by the Supreme Lord that Dhruva Maharaj was so absorbed in meditation on the thought of the Supreme Personality of Godhead that he himself, the universal consciousness, was attracted to Dhruva. In order to please the Supreme Soul, the Super Soul and the individual soul became united is not supported in this statement. Rather, the Super Soul, the personality of Godhead, wanted, just as by watering the root of the tree, one satisfies every branch, twig. All the demigods were afraid of being totally vanquished by suffocation, but the personality of Godhead assured them that Dhruva and was not about other living entities. We are going to see this in the life of Dhruva Maharaj. He was so envious. He was burning in that fire of envy and revenge, and not even his stepmother and her son. The ends of Bhaktivedanta purports of the fourth canto, 8th chapter of the Srimad Bhagavatam entitled Dhruva Maharaj Leaves for the Forest. Maitreya Uvacha Ta eva mutsana bhaya urukrame Kritavamaha Yuvistha Sahasrashir Api Tato Garutmata. Told Vidura, When the demigods were thus reassured by the personality of Godhead, they were freed from all the fears and got on the back of Garuda, who carried him, who carried him to Madhu. Shiro Dakshai Vishnu. He has been, according to Srila Sanatan Goswami in his Bhagavatamrita, he created the planet known as Dhruva Loka for the habitation of Dhruva Maharaj. So an entire planet was created for Dhruva Maharaj for his habitation. स्फुरितं तदिप्रभं तिरोहितं सहस्यै वोपलाक्ष्य बहिर्स्थितं तदवस्थं ददर्श. The form of the Lord, which was brilliant like lightning, and in which Dhruva Maharaj in his mature yogic process. So Dhruva Maharaj is meditating on the beautiful form of the Lord. He saw the Supreme Personality of Godhead personally present, just as he had been seeing the Lord in his heart. Because of the mature position in yogi, the personality of Godhead within his heart, when the meditation, he saw the same form of the Lord before him. In Brahma Samhita 538, it is said, Prema Anjana Churita Bhakti Vilochanena. A saintly person who has developed love of Godhead, devotional service, always sees the Lord's. When a devotee becomes mature in his prosecution of devotional service, he sees face to face the same Shyama Sundar. He is not the entire course of his devotional service. Are all the same. They are non-different from one another. Like we are worshipping Radha Govind Dev, Nitai Chand, Gaur Chand, Kunj Bihari, and Radha Vrindavan Chandra, and Radha Gopinath in Bombay. So now the point which is asked, that when a devotee goes back to spiritual world, how he will see Krishna. And the answer Radheshyam was explaining, that what he had heard from various Maharajas was that the different devotees from Bombay will see the Lord as Radha Gopinath. So that is what he had been worshipping throughout life, and the Lord will appear the same in the spiritual world. And one who has been worshipping Radha. So this goes to show that the process of devotional service is not meaningless. It is not simply a mock simulation. So again here the bogus logic of the Mayavadi. No. It is not like that. The Lord has expanded himself within man. Same, the Lord is going to appear. For more as we purified. The Lord in meditation. Garbha, the Lord Krishna Garbha, he appeared in front of Dhruva. Sadhava Sashitav. Avandatangam vinamaya dandavat Drigbhayam prapasyan bhaka Chumban ivashyena bhujer ivashlishan agitated and offered him obeisances and respect. He fell flat before him like a rod and became absorbed and embracing the Lord with his arms. Naturally, face to face, he was very much agitated in awe and respect, and it appeared as if he were drinking the entire body of the Lord with his eyes. The devotee's love for the Supreme Personality of Godhead is so intense that he wants to kiss the lotus feet of the Lord constantly, and he wants to touch the tips of the toes of the Lord, and he wants to constantly embrace the lotus feet of the Lord. All these features. So this is the same feeling what the four Kumaras, Tulasi, that was so much captivating and overwhelmed them, and all their conceptions of impersonal to the beautiful form of the Lord. The same feeling now embrace, and he wanted to kiss the lotus feet of the Lord, more and more and more, and not let go of it. ज्ञातवस्य सर्वस्य च हृदि अवस्थितः कृताञ्जलिं पस्पर्यबालं कृपया कपोले. Although Dhruva Maharaj was a small boy, he wanted to offer prayers to the Supreme Personality of Godhead in suitable language. But because he was inexperienced, awkward position. Out of his causeless mercy, he touched his conch shell. Dhruva Maharaj stood before him, who stood before him with folded hands. Anjalim. So understanding that Dhruva Maharaj is a small child, inexperienced, is not able to offer prayers. The Lord touched his conch shell to the forehead of Dhruva Maharaj. Every devotee wants to chant the transcendental glories, the qualities of the Lord. Devotees are always interested in hearing about the Lord's transcendental qualities, and they are always eager to glorify the humbleness, the Supreme Personality of Godhead being situated in everyone's heart. Personality of Godhead. His words are dictated to engage in the transcendental loving service of the Lord. Touched his conch shell to Dhruva's forehead, and he was transcendently inspired. This transcendental inspiration, because when one is, this is not the ordinary sound vibration of this material world. Therefore, the sound vibration of the Hare Krishna mantra, although presented combination, progressed, absorbed himself fully. The Lord blessed him profusely by Ishtadev, the beautiful form of the Supreme Lord. Simply embrace and kiss. And now the Lord embraced him. So Dhruva Maharaj might have got electrified with that. Now, what kind of transformation has come about? And and the motivations and aspirations of Dhruva Maharaj. To know all that, be there with us next week. Hari Bol.